we go. All right, so that song was called Go With The Flow. It was by Molly Baker. So we're going to be talking about the Tao Te Ching today, what the Tao Te Ching is. We're going to be talking just a little bit about Lao Tzu. We're going to be talking about the 10 life-transforming themes that are in the book. We will have comparison quotes between the Tao Te Ching and also scripture. And so more than anything else, Tao is about the art of letting go, of not forcing solutions, about trusting that all is unfolding exactly as it should. It teaches that our minds cannot possibly understand why things happen the way they do. And like last week's lesson, we need the heart as much as we need the mind, if not more. It emphasizes living in the present moment and allowing ourselves and each other to just be, without the need to always control ourselves or control others. 4 centuries before Jesus, yet all the concepts align perfectly. All right. So who was Lao Tzu? Lao Tzu is one of the ways that his name is pronounced. Lao Tzu is another way. Lao Tzu is another way. I'm going to be saying Lao Tzu. That's just the way that I got taught it a long time ago. So he was said to have been a record keeper in the Chu dynasty in the royal court in 600 BC. The name itself means old master in Chinese. He is considered to be the founder of Taoism. So he was a senior contemporary of Confucius. There are a lot of stories written about how Confucius went to meet with him on several different occasions, consulted him on how to do certain practices and rituals, and that he was very impressed with him. He lived in Chu for a very long time. Depending on who you listen to, when he was 90 or 100, he decided to leave, that he was very upset with how morally corrupt the place had been. And so he got on a water buffalo and decided to leave the country. When he was leaving, he met with Yin Chi, who was official in charge of the border crossing. And although he had tried to describe himself, Yin Chi saw him and said, if you're going to leave the country, can you at least write down what it is that you've been teaching all these years? And so he did that. And so that's how we got to have the Tao Te Ching. It is divided into 2 parts. The first part is the meaning of the Tao, and the second part is the meaning of virtue. After he left the country and went away, nobody knew where he was after that. He never came back. Nobody ever went out looking for him. He just went on and lived a monastic life the rest of his life. So if you do a lot of studying, there are a lot of different stories about it. Some people believe that the Tao Te Ching is actually a compilation of several different authors, that it's not all just him. I tend to go with the school of thought that thinks it's all just him. It may have been added to over the years, but I really believe that he was the main author. So 2,000 years ago, Taoism was started. And again, depending on who you study, there are either 20 million Taoists in the world right now or 500 million. So again, people don't always say what traditions they believe in and what religions they are in, but if there's any kind of censuses that go around, that's why the numbers are so big. Most of the people that are Taoists live in either China or Taiwan. So they practice meditation, they chant scriptures, they worship a variety of gods and goddesses in temples. They make pilgrimages 5 times a year to sacred mountains, to 5 sacred mountains in China, where they pray and they go to these mountains so they can absorb the spiritual energy that is in the mountains. So Taoism is deeply intertwined with other branches of thought, like Confucianism and Buddhism. And of course, we did Buddhism last week, and you'll hear that there's a lot of the same stuff, a lot of the same stuff. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text, which is somewhat like the Bible because it is powerful. It has hidden meanings. It meets you where you are. So every time you read it, you get something different out of it. That's very definitely the case of the Bible. It's the case of the Tao Te Ching as well. So Jason Gregory is an author and philosopher and spiritual teacher, and he said it's like the Bible because it has such a broad appeal and because the meaning is so deep. It speaks to us at our level of understanding. So there are 81 short chapters in there. It is translated more often than any other book in the history of the world except the Bible. Except the Bible. It is a work of what's called metaphysical psychology. The Tao refers to the way things are. So psychologically, the way human nature is constituted, the deep dynamic structure of our being. Ethically, the way humans must conduct themselves with others. Spiritually, it gives us guidance and methods for searching for the truth, and it is called the way of inner work. It is the cosmic force or principle that expands or flows outwards, or it descends downward into creation, depending on who you're talking to. Nicholas Goki says that Taoism is a philosophy that is built on 3 pillars. These 3 principles are our greatest treasures: simplicity, patience, and compassion. Being simple in our actions and our thoughts, and turning to our source for our understanding of our being. Through patience with both friends and enemies, you accord with the way things are. By being compassionate towards yourself, you reconcile all beings in the world. So he talks about 3 lessons from Taoism. Number 1, give yourself to whatever the moment brings and accept it fully. Number 2, admit your own faults and mistakes because they can be your greatest strength. And number 3, embody the virtue of competing with the spirit of play. So you're not competing to knock somebody out, you're competing to expand yourself and to be in harmony with each other. So number 1, the master surrenders himself. These are quotes I'm now giving you. The master surrenders himself to the moment, knows the difference between what's in his control and what's not in his control. He knows death is the final outcome, so he does not fear it. He doesn't hold on to anything because he knows nothing will last forever. He knows he may not wake tomorrow, and if he does, he rejoices. He owns the present moment as it passes by, he lets it go. What matters most is how he can easily give himself to whatever the moment brings. Number 2, seek to know yourself through self-observation and your judgment of others. So what that means is the way that you judge others actually teaches you more about yourself than it teaches you about the other people. So it's all about self-observing your own actions and how you interact with others. When the master makes a mistake, he realizes it. Having realized it, he admits it. Having admitting it, he corrects it. He doesn't get offended by one who points out his faults. He thinks of those people as his greatest teachers. He catches himself when he's not doing his best and he fixes it. And every mistake he takes as an opportunity to increase his self-awareness. He observes how he observes others. If he gets triggered by someone's behavior, he recognizes something in him that has to change. Accepting his own faults and finding his shortcomings is a way of raising his awareness. So number 3, the purpose of competition is to playfully improve the master. So again, it's not about knocking the other person out or winning. It's about growing. Everybody can be their best, and so they can grow in the game. They raise the level of the players, play and improve his skills. You want everyone to leave better than before they came. So they want to do what is best for the communal good and listen to each other to find out what the community needs. The mission is to thrive as a human being and to bring out the best in the world. All right, Kyle Kowalski had an essay on the 10 life-transforming themes of the Tao Te Ching. And so I'm going to be using a lot of quotes from the Tao Te Ching. He is basing it on Stephen Mitchell's translation. Stephen Mitchell is very, very well known. As a matter of fact, if you go to the internet or you Google the translations, all of the YouTube, very vast majority of the YouTubes are based on Stephen Mitchell's. So I will be using Stephen Mitchell's as well. So the name of the book, the Tao Te Ching, can be translated the Book of the Immanence of the Way, or the Book of the Way and how it manifests itself in the world, or simply the Book of the Way. Lao Tzu's central figure is a man or woman whose life is in perfect harmony with the way things are. The master has mastered nature, not in the sense of conquering it, but of becoming it. Lao Tzu describes the master as she as often as it is described as he. In the Chinese language, there is no distinction between he or she. Of all of the great world religions, the teaching of Lao Tzu is by far the most female. So number 1, Tao is the infinite common source, eternally present within you. No beginning, no end, the essence of wisdom, just be. Something formless and perfect before the universe was born, unchanging, infinite, eternally present. For lack of a better word, I will call it the Tao, he says. That's number 25. The Tao nourishes not by forcing, by not dominating, the master leads. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. Returning to the source is serenity. Number 2, centeredness. Balance and reside at the center of the circle within the Tao for peace in your heart, your natural rhythm, and universal harmony. The great way is easy, yet people prefer the side paths. Be aware when things are out of balance. Stay centered within the Tao. Just stay at the center of the circle and let all things take their course. Number 3, No self. Don't live life. Let life live you. You will be truly yourself and perfectly fulfilled. This leaves nothing to fear, not even death. Because she has let go of herself, she is perfectly fulfilled. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. Number 4, look inside. Embrace solitude and trust your inner vision to see your oneness with the whole universe. Go deep internally instead of living on the surface externally. The master observes the world but trusts his inner vision. He allows things to come and go. His heart is as open as the sky. If you want to know me, he says, look inside your heart. Number 5, desire non-desire. Remove all expectations and stop seeking to realize the mystery of life and be at peace in the present moment. Therefore, the master takes action by letting things take their course. He remains as calm at the end as he is at the beginning. He has nothing, so he has nothing to lose. When he desires is non-desire because he learns to unlearn. He cares about nothing but the Tao. Thus, he can care for all things. Peace is his highest value. If the peace has been shattered, how can he be content? Number 6, not knowing mind. The Tao isn't something you can know through your intellect or your intelligence. Not knowing is true knowledge. Know that you don't know. Step back from your mind to understand. Stop thinking and you will end all your problems. Those who know don't talk. Those who talk don't know. The master is her own physician. She has healed herself of all knowing. Thus, she is truly whole. Number 7, action, non-action. Through non-action and not doing, you will do everything that needs to be done because the Tao will act through you. Practice not doing and everything will fall into place. The Tao never does anything, yet through it all things are done. Do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? Number 8, non-resistance, non-judgment, and non-attachment. Let things come and go. Have without possessing. Act without expecting. Problems will be no problem for you. Giving birth and nourishing, having without possessing, acting with no expectations, leading and not trying to control. This is the supreme virtue. The mark of a moderate man is freedom from his own ideas. Number 9, contentment and simplicity. When you realize you have enough, you are rich. When nothing is lacking, the whole world belongs to you. Simplicity returns you to the source. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. The simplest pattern is the clearest. Content with an ordinary life, you can show all people the way back to their own true nature. Number 10, paradoxes. And obviously you've heard a whole bunch of paradoxes leading up to this. A lot of it takes very, very deep concentration and a lot of thought to get the meaning of it. The paradox is the way, he says. When the Tao is forgotten, humanity goes off course. The world is sacred as is, and it can't be improved. We only need to trust in the Tao. When man interferes with the Tao, the sky becomes filthy. The earth becomes depleted. The equilibrium crumbles. Creatures become extinct. And we're obviously seeing all of that right now, written 2,000 years ago. In dwelling, live close to the ground. In thinking, keep to the simple. In conflict, be fair and generous. In governing, don't try to control. In work, do what you enjoy. In family life, be completely present. Okay, So what I did now is they were all over the place, but I just picked a couple of Tao scriptures and compared them to scripture. So Tao, be content with what you have, rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. If any of you want to have the actual numerical chapters that go with this, just let me know and I'll send you a list of all of that. Scripture, I have learned in whatever situation I am content. I know how to be brought low and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. That's Philippians 4:11. Tao, I have just 3 things to teach you: simplicity, patience, and compassion. These 3 are your greatest treasures. Scripture. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Tao, those who know do not speak, those who speak do not know. Scripture, a truly wise person uses few words. That's Proverbs 12:27. Tao, do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and the water is clear? Scripture, patience leads to abundant understanding, but impatience leads to stupid mistakes. Proverbs 14:29. Tao, there is a time for being ahead, a time for being behind, a time for being in motion, a time for being at rest, a time for being vigorous, a time for being exhausted, a time for being safe, a time for being in danger. And we all know that just goes with the Ecclesiastics one: for everything there is a season and a time for every season under heaven. And so I didn't read the whole list that is in scripture, but you all know it's all in that song that you hear all the time, every day. Tao, for everything there is a season and a time for every matter. Oh, sorry, that was scripture. The concept of the Tao that is infinite, internally present, no beginning, no end, formless and perfect, before the universe was born, unchanging and infinite. If you go to scripture, that is the description of God everywhere you read it. Also, the great way is easy, yet people prefer the side paths. Matthew 11:28 says, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Matthew 7:13, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. Just some. I could have spent the whole talk just comparing, because they're so much alike. They're so much alike. So here's what I know. I am so grateful the lessons of the Tao have become an integral part of my daily life. Perhaps because they match with so many of the principles I have been taught by studying scripture and by being in recovery. The lesson of going with the flow and not fighting reality is probably the most important and can be summed up in the words, accept the things I cannot change. As I understand it, it is more than just acceptance. It is also about allowing things to unfold and not trying to force solutions. This goes along with my understanding that lots of times we can't see the forest for the trees. When we are too close to a problem, we often lose our perspective. It takes backing away to see the big picture. Allowing. Going with the flow is also about trust. Trusting that the right answers will come, trusting in God or the universe or the Tao that we are safe and live in a world that is fundamentally in order, not chaos, and that there is some force that is in charge and it is not us. Trusting and allowing is also about patience. These are qualities that are emphasized in every ancient truth that we have studied in this series. Patience means I trust that I am okay not knowing the answers. I had a sign on my refrigerator for a long time which said, if I don't have the answers, allow me to be at peace in the not knowing. Allowing and letting go of the need to control are discussed at great length in the Tao and scripture, as well as all of the systems of recovery. But allowing and letting go only bring peace if you can be free of fear. I am much more likely to let go if I feel safe. I can feel safe only when I have no fear. Thankfully, I have been taught and have had it confirmed that fear is false evidence appearing real. Our ego will tell us that we are in danger of losing things, money, relationships, status, health. But the truth is, everything we are holding on to so tightly is only temporary. Tao talks a lot about having without possessing. We don't really own anything. It has all been given to us by God, the Creator, the Tao, to use while we are here and then let go of. We are not our things or our health or our relationships. We are spiritual beings put here to love and encourage and nurture and support each other on this journey. All that we supposedly have comes and goes. The art of allowing, going with the flow, is so much about being in the present moment. Eckhart Tolle did a talk, well, actually he did several talks on the Tao, and he reminds us that now is all we ever really have. When we get caught up in our thoughts, up in our heads, not in our hearts, we are losing the experience of the now, what is actually happening right now in this moment. It has been so helpful to remember many of the things I am afraid of, again, fear, are never going to happen. And the things that I have done, which I'm upset about, were all there to teach me lessons. Tao talks a lot about recognizing something in ourselves which we need to change. When we make mistakes, accepting our faults, making amends if necessary, and using it as a way to grow better ourselves and have more self-awareness. It also teaches that those who point out our faults are our greatest teachers. When we get triggered by people, we can look at ourselves and say, what inside me needs to change? All of the teachings of Abraham Hicks are about going within the flow. We humans have such a tendency to paddle harder and go upstream instead of turning the boat around and allowing ourselves to go with the flow. Over and over through all of the teachings of both ancient texts and modern masters, the same lessons are taught. Allow, trust, let go, show patience and love and gratitude, stay centered in balance, live in the moment, accept reality, acknowledge there is some force in the universe in charge and it's not us. Live and let live and go with the flow. And so it is. Remember, at all times, the power is in you. It always has been, and it always will be. Thank you so much. All right.